Hello and welcome to this week's Food for Thought. Mark Lockridge here, pastor of New Life Fellowship in Letterkenny and Milford Reformed Presbyterian Church. It's great to have you with us. As I record this, Storm Owen is about to hit. The red warnings have been posted, schools are closed, and Letterkenny was a touched bung today. I'm assuming people were buying in a few supplies, in case of power cuts, stocking up on toilet roll and whatever else. By the time this goes out, we'll know what damage has been done across the country. I pray that it hasn't left carnage and heartache in its wake. I do love the raw power of nature, at a safe distance of course. Storm waters smashing in on rugged shores. I saw some stunning photos recently by local photographer Owen Clark of waves pounding in on Tory Island. Utterly magnificent and majestic. There's that old story of King Canute, a story beloved by teachers and moralizers, of a man so arrogant that he commanded the incoming tide to stop, only to find his royal feet somewhat dampened. But apparently it turns out to be false. Or at least it's a rather negative spin on what might have been a far better object lesson. Canute was the king of Denmark, England, Norway, and parts of Sweden, about 1000 AD. Professor Simon Keynes of Cambridge describes him as a remarkable king. He says he was a firm ruler, renowned not only for actions calculated to win the support and affections of his subjects, but also for his attempts at reconciling the English and the Danes. The first written account of the waves episode was in an ancient history of the English people by Henry of Huntingdon, who lived within 60 years of the death of King Canute. He says this: "About the power of this king a little should be stated, for no English king ever had such wide-ranging authority, for he was at once the lord of all Denmark, of all England, of all Norway, and also of Scotland." According to Huntingdon, Canute was also aware of the limitations of his power, and wanted to display to his courtiers that limitation. He had his throne carried down to the shore. He ordered the waves not to break upon his land, nor wet his royal personage. And when his orders were ignored by the sea, he said this: "All the inhabitants of the world should know that the power of kings is vain and trivial, and that none is worthy of the name of king, but he whose command the heavens, earth, and sea obey by eternal laws." So God alone is truly king. Professor Keynes writes, the story is intended to illustrate his piety, which was a prominent feature of his kingship. He knows his power is nothing besides that of God. In the light of a certain president's pronouncements this past week, it would seem this lesson is still needed to be heeded by powerful rulers. The power of kings and presidents is vain and trivial compared to God's. Powerful leaders would do well to realize that they're powerless to fulfill their dreams unless God permits. Pronouncements count for nothing. And powerful leaders would do well to acknowledge that God in a deep and genuine way. Be good to have leaders who were renowned like Canute for their piety. But imagine what the reaction would have been if the onrushing waves had stopped. And imagine further that it wasn't simply the tide, but rather some of the massive oceanic monsters that have smashed the shore in recent months. Imagine he had stopped those with a word. How freaked out would his courtiers have been? But that prerogative belongs to one man only. In a boat on the Sea of Galilee, not 1 but 2 millennia ago. "Who is this?" the disciples asked. "Even the wind and waves obey him." Look back at the footage of Storm Owen. See its power. Imagine one who could stand on the harbour wall at Port Nabla and simply say, "Shh, be still." The raw power of nature is frightening. How much more so the power of one who can control it with merely a word. Jesus displays his power here so that we can know that he is who he says he is, that he has power to save, power to calm the storms, power to make things right, and that we should take his claims seriously. Canute's courtiers were reminded that there were things their king couldn't do. Jesus' followers are reminded that there is no limit to his power, and that those who trust him find that he still calms storms today. Whatever storms you are facing, illness, guilt, fear, uncertainty, whatever they might be, go to him who calms the storms and ask him to help you trust him in the storm. Thanks for listening. And if you want to get in touch, drop me an email, mark@newlifefellowship.ie. Until next time here in Finn Valley FM, have a great week.